There is a seed sitting in your fruit bowl right now that could still be growing when your grandchildren are adults. Somewhere in your kitchen, a piece of root you were about to throw in the trash is already trying to become a new plant, waiting only for soil and a little patience. Previously on Stellar Eureka, we already showed you 10 crops you could grow for free. Today, we're going deeper, into the pit you spit out, the root you peel and toss, the wild cane growing in the ditch behind your house. These aren't the obvious ones. Some of them take years to pay off. Some of them pay off by next season. And wait until you hear what a single peanut is actually doing underground while you're not looking. These are 10 more crops, hiding in plain sight, free for the taking. Number 1. Avocado, Persea americana. You slice open an avocado, scoop it clean, and there in your palm sits something most people rinse off and forget. That pit is not garbage. It is a dormant tree waiting for 4 toothpicks and a glass of water. Suspend the pit, wide end down, half submerged in water, and within 2 to 6 weeks, a taproot splits the base while a pale stem climbs from the top. Transplant it into soil once the stem reaches 6 inches. If you're growing this indoors in a colder climate, keep the pot near your brightest window and rotate it weekly, since avocado seedlings will lean hard toward the light and grow lopsided if you let them. Watch for a slimy film or mold ring at the water line in the first 2 weeks, and simply rinse the pit and change the water if you see it, since rot at this stage is the most common way this project fails. Patience is the real cost here, and it's worth saying plainly. Avocado trees grown from seed rarely produce fruit before 8 years. And because most grocery store avocados come from cross-pollinated hybrids, the fruit that eventually appears may not match the one you started with. What you get in the meantime is a strikingly handsome houseplant, broad, glossy leaves on a single upright trunk, grown from something that used to go straight into the trash. For anyone who wants a project rather than an instant reward, this is the one to start today. Number 2. Ginger, Zingiber officinale. Break a knob of ginger from the produce aisle in half and look closely at the pale bumps along its surface. Those are eyes, and every one of them is a plant that hasn't started yet. If you've bought ginger before and watched it just sit there shriveling in a drawer, that same piece was likely capable of this the entire time. Ginger and turmeric are rhizomes, thick underground stems rather than true roots. And that distinction is what makes them so easy to multiply. Cut a piece with at least 1 or 2 visible eyes. Let the cut surface callus over for a day, then bury it an inch or 2 deep in moist, loose soil, eyes facing up. Within a few weeks, a green shoot pushes through the surface while the rhizome itself spreads sideways underground, thickening and branching as it goes. If your first kitchen ginger came from a grocery store, check that it isn't treated with a sprout inhibitor first, since that's the one thing that can stop this from working at all. Given a warm season of 8 months or more, a single store-bought piece can multiply into a dense clump worth digging up and dividing again the following spring. Both plants also make attractive tropical foliage in the meantime. Broad ginger leaves or the deep green fans of turmeric, useful and decorative even before any harvest. Both do just as well in a large container as in open ground, which makes this one of the easiest options here for anyone gardening on a patio or balcony rather than a full yard. Number 3. Chayote, Sechium eduli. Every other vegetable on this list gets cut open for its seeds. Chayote refuses that treatment entirely. Leave one sitting on a counter too long and you'll find it sprouting a thick, pale shoot right through its own pale green skin. Seed and fruit still fused together as one piece. That is exactly how it's meant to be planted. Set the entire chayote at a slight angle in soil, wide end down, with the top third exposed to light, and the shoot already growing inside will take over from there. Give it something to climb, a trellis, a fence, even a tree, and the vine will run fast, often 20 feet or more in a single season. So this one isn't for a small balcony unless you're prepared to train it hard. Even a single vine trained up a fence can provide enough shade to noticeably cool a patio or porch by late summer. A bonus most gardeners don't expect when they first plant it. Chayote has been cultivated in Mesoamerica for thousands of years, and nearly every part of the plant is edible: the fruit, the young shoots, even the starchy root that forms below ground in older plants. In much of the American South, it has quietly become a passed-along garden staple. One fruit handed from neighbor to neighbor rather than bought as seed, which is exactly how yours will likely start too. One caution worth knowing up front: Chayote is frost tender and thrives best in mild winter climates, so gardeners further north will need to treat it as an annual or bring the vine indoors before the first freeze. Number 4. Romaine lettuce, Artichoke sativa. Next time you're prepping romaine, cabbage, or bok choy, stop before you toss the stump. Set it in a shallow dish with about ½ inch of water, cut side down on a sunny windowsill, and within days, pale new leaves begin pushing up from the center. This works because the base of the head still holds its growing point, the same cluster of cells that would have kept producing leaves if the plant had never been harvested. Change the water every couple of days to keep it fresh and free of film, and a week or two of rooting, the stump can be moved into soil for a longer run. This is the fastest result on this entire list, which makes it a good one to start with if you want proof this whole idea works before you commit to something slower. It's worth being honest about what this trick actually gives you. A regrown romaine stump will not form another full tight head. What it will give you is several rounds of loose edible leaves over a few weeks, enough for a couple of salads from something that was headed for the compost bin regardless. Number 5. Horseradish, Armoraceae rusticana. Ask any farmer who has tried to remove horseradish from a field, and you'll hear a different story than the one about how easy it is to grow. For anyone who has struggled to keep a garden alive, this is the crop that makes almost no demands and asks almost nothing in return, except a patch of ground it can call its own. This is not a delicate crop. It's a root so determined to survive that a single forgotten piece left in the ground can rebuild an entire plant the following spring. Horseradish grows from thick, pale roots you can find in the produce section, usually beside the ginger. Cut a piece 2 to 3 inches long, plant it at a slight angle a few inches deep, and give it room. That's essentially the entire instruction manual. It doesn't need coddling, fertilizer, or attention. It needs space, because within a season it will use it, and it will keep using it every year after that whether you planned for it or not. If your yard is small, plant it inside a bottomless bucket sunk into the soil. The same trick used to contain mint, or you'll spend years afterward finding new sprouts in places you never planted it. Once established, horseradish is a perennial, coming back year after year without replanting. Its coarse leaves spreading wide while the roots thicken below, often reaching a foot or more in length by the time you're ready to dig. It has been cultivated since antiquity for both food and medicine, and its intensity, the sharp heat that clears your sinuses when freshly grated, comes from compounds the plant produces specifically to defend itself. Number 6. Jerusalem artichoke, Helianthus tuberosus. Walk past a patch of tall, yellow-flowered plants in late summer, the kind that look almost like a smaller, scruffier sunflower, and you might be standing directly above several pounds of free food without knowing it. Jerusalem artichokes, despite the name, have nothing to do with Jerusalem and nothing to do with true artichokes. They're a species of sunflower native to North America, grown not for their flowers, but for the knobby tubers that form underground at the base of each stalk. Plant a single tuber from the grocery store or a farmer's market in spring, and by fall, that one piece has multiplied into a dense cluster ready to dig, often more than you'll know what to do with in the first year alone. Unlike most root crops, Jerusalem artichokes store best left exactly where they grew, since the tubers hold up far longer in the ground than in a refrigerator. So dig only what you need and leave the rest for later in the season. The plant's biggest challenge isn't growing, it's containing it. Left alone, Jerusalem artichokes spread aggressively year after year, which is exactly why so many gardeners who plant them once end up with a permanent patch whether they intended one or not. If you only have a small yard, plant this one in a bottomless container sunk into the ground to keep it in check. Number 7. Peanut. Arachis hypogea. Here's something that sounds backwards until you watch it happen. And it's the kind of detail that tends to surprise even people who've gardened for decades. A peanut plant flowers above the ground, gets pollinated above the ground, and then does something almost no other crop does. It reaches down and buries its own future underground. After a peanut flower is fertilized, it grows a specialized stalk called a peg, which curves downward and pushes itself into the soil. The actual peanut pod develops underground at the tip of that peg, hidden from sunlight entirely. Start with a raw, unroasted, unsalted peanut still in its shell, planted a couple of inches deep in loose, well-draining soil, and by midsummer, you'll see this strange process play out for yourself. This one needs a long, warm growing season to finish, so gardeners in cooler regions should start it as early as their last frost allows. Loose, sandy soil matters more here than for almost anything else on this list, since compacted clay makes it physically difficult for the pegs to push downward and form pods at all. Roasted peanuts from a snack aisle won't work. The heat destroys their ability to germinate, so raw peanuts sold for boiling or cooking are the ones to look for. Given a full warm season, one planted peanut can yield 30 to 50 new peanuts, all of them formed in total darkness beneath the plant that made them. Number 8. Corn, popcorn. Zea mays. There's a bag of popcorn kernels in most pantries, and almost nobody looks at it and sees a field. It's an easy one to overlook precisely because it looks so finished, so clearly meant for a microwave rather than a garden bed. But those kernels are not processed the way most people assume. They're simply dried, and dried is not the same as dead. Plant popcorn kernels the same way you would any dried corn, an inch or two deep, in blocks rather than single rows. Since corn relies on wind pollination and needs neighboring plants nearby to produce full ears. A single row planted alone will leave you with mostly empty cobs, so give it at least a 4x4 block if you have the space. One thing worth knowing if you're also growing sweet corn nearby, popcorn will cross-pollinate with it, and the resulting ears often turn out starchy and tough. So keep some distance between the two if you're growing both. Within a week or two of warm soil, they sprout, and by midsummer they stand as tall, leafy stalks, indistinguishable from any farm field. The results vary more than most crops on this list. Popcorn varieties are generally open-pollinated rather than hybrid, which means the kernels you plant are more likely to grow true to type than something like a hybrid sweet corn would be. Each stalk that matures typically produces 1 or 2 ears, packed with hundreds of kernels, ready to dry, cure, and either eat or replant. Number 9. Blackberry. Rubus fruticosus. Walk along almost any overgrown fence line, ditch, or forest edge in late summer, and you'll likely find wild blackberry or raspberry canes arching under their own weight. Some of them bent so far that their tips have already touched the ground and taken root without a single hand involved. This is called tip layering, and it's how brambles have spread and survived for millennia without anyone planting a single seed. Where an arching cane's tip makes contact with soil, it forms roots on its own, eventually severing its connection to the parent plant and becoming an entirely independent one. Find a young rooted tip like this, cut it free from the original cane, and you have a free, already established plant ready to move into your own yard. Always ask before digging on land that isn't yours, and never take from state parks or protected areas. But roadside easements and a generous neighbor's fence line are usually fair game. Late summer into early fall is the best window to look, since that's when the season's new canes have had time to arch over and root themselves before winter arrives. Wild brambles are also generally hardier and more disease-resistant than many cultivated varieties. Having survived without pesticides, fertilizer, or any human intervention at all, that resilience tends to carry over once transplanted, which is part of why foraged canes often outperform nursery-bought ones in their first couple of seasons. What you're taking isn't a cutting that might root. It's a plant that already decided to live. Number 10. Lemon. Citrus limon. Save the seeds from your next lemon, orange, or grapefruit instead of rinsing them down the drain, and you're holding something with a longer memory than almost anything else on this list. This is the crop for anyone who has ever planted a tree for someone else to enjoy. A parent, a grandchild, a future version of a garden they won't be around to tend forever. Plant one, and it may still be growing decades from now, long after the fruit it came from has been forgotten. Rinse the seeds clean. Let them dry for a day, then plant them about half an inch deep in well-draining soil. Germination typically takes 2 to 4 weeks in warm conditions, followed by slow, steady growth as a small, glossy-leaved seedling. Kept as a container plant, citrus grown from seed makes an attractive, fragrant addition to a sunny room for years when anything resembling fruit appears, and the leaves themselves smell faintly of citrus when brushed. That weight is real and worth being upfront about. Most citrus trees grown from seed take 8 to 12 years to bear fruit, if they bear fruit at all, and because grocery store citrus is typically a grafted hybrid, the fruit that eventually appears often won't taste quite like the one the seed came from. What you're planting isn't really a shortcut to fruit. It's a tree grown for its own sake that may still outlast you. Keep young seedlings away from cold drafts and windows in the winter, since citrus is frost sensitive at every stage, and a single hard chill can undo months of slow, patient growth. Somewhere tonight, an ordinary onion is quietly deciding to become 8. A pit is splitting open in a glass of water. None of it needs you to notice. It just happens. Tell us which of these 10 you're starting with, and if you've got a kitchen scrap trick we missed, drop it in the comments. This is Stellar Eureka, signing off.